Good morning. Two quick things. If you, on your way in, didn't pick up communion elements, you've got 24.7 seconds to go do so right now. It's okay. They're at the back. Just even nudge your friend. Hey, get me one now. Go. Go get. If you didn't pick them up on the way in, it's okay. You were coming in. You were excited. You were talking to people, and you missed it. I'd rather you go get them now than break the moment. We'll be sharing communion at the end today. So just so if you've not got them, just quickly go get them, and we're all good. Yeah, people coming in. Grab those. Awesome. Hey, and while we're here, all you college guys who are here, so glad you're with us. So Thursday night and this morning has been an answer to prayer for me. 7 years ago, when we first came here, I prayed for a day like this when there'll be hundreds of college kids in this room. It took 7 years. I prayed for this. And to add to that, all you college people, you get to stay here today because at 12:30, following our gathering, down in the student center at the end of the campus there is a free lunch for people who are in college. So it's all for you. It's a free lunch. I may gate crash that for the free lunch and say hi, me and my wife. I think we earned that. But seriously, come. You're welcome. Please do that. If you had lunch plans, get your phone out, text them. Sorry, had a better offer. Come join me here. So that's today, and that's not every week. It's just today. It's just special. So that's what's going on as well. Are we all good now? Okay, great. Here we go. Transformed, part 6, walking through the book of 1 Peter in the Bible, written by Peter. He's writing to 5 different churches in Asia Minor, modern-day Turkey. They are under the reign of Nero, horrific Roman leader at that time. That's where they are. They're following Jesus under severe oppression, and Peter has a message for them. He's like, okay, church, live holy, love others. The two are inseparable. It's not enough to live holy. You need to live holy and love others. This whole series, in fact, the whole of ministry of your life is this: learn, live, love. It's learn from Jesus, live the way of Jesus, and love like Jesus. We are learning the words of Jesus. We need his word. We then live that out. We live his ways, how he lived, and we love others like Jesus did. Huge challenge. That's it. That's what discipleship is. Discipleship is not just learning his words. We have to learn his words and live them out. Jesus said do that. And then discipleship is we are on his mission, loving like him. That's what Peter is driving home. And today I'm going to cover chapter 3, not every single verse of it, a big section in the middle of chapter 3 that I believe is the heartbeat to all of this. And so I'm going to go from verse 8 to verse 18 today of chapter 3. But there is a bullseye in chapter 3. The bullseye in chapter 3 is verse 15. I believe everything goes to this and from this. It's really the heart. And you may have heard this kind of a phrase before, but we need to hear it today. And so verse 15 of chapter 3 of 1 Peter, it's on the screen if you've not got a Bible with you, says this: but in your hearts set apart Christ as Lord. In your hearts set apart Christ as Lord. We'll leave the rest for now. Let's just stop with that bit. In your hearts, set apart Christ as Lord. I'm going to make a statement. Is he Lord? We don't use that word Lord in any other context here. It's been a church thing, but it's a really important thing. Lordship. Is he king? Central? Does everything I do flow from him? Does everything I do, is it for him and from him? Therefore, the decisions I make with my life is who is Lord. Because the decisions I make are going to come from who is Lord. Either Lord is you or Lord is some other influences. And there's lots of noise out there demanding to be Lord. There is. There's lots of influences out there saying, this is how you should live. This is how you should respond. This is how you should fill in the blank. So the lordship question is critical. And Peter's writing to these people and saying, guys, in your heart, set apart Christ as Lord. Make this a point. Everything flows from him and everything is to him. Who am I living for? Lordship. I'm going to focus in a bit on that today, so let me put it this way. Who are you bowing to? Who are you bowing to? What are you bowing to? Because believe it or not, you are bowing to a load of things, possibly, but there should be just one. You are bowing to, oh yeah, I'll do what you say. Oh yeah, okay, that's what everybody else thinks. Okay, well I'm supposed to do this because this happens here. And we are bowing and we are responding. Who are you bowing to? What are you bowing to? That's the question. Who is Lord? And Peter's leaning in and saying, hey, if we don't get this one right and understand it, you're going to be all over the place. So who is Lord? Who are you bowing to? With that context, knowing that he's going towards that statement, set apart Christ as Lord, let's go from verse 8 to verse 14 with that context. And it's as if this was written like yesterday. It's so relevant to our culture today. So he says this, finally, all of you, can I just take some confidence and some comfort from Peter here? He's only in chapter 3. There's the rest of chapter 3, rest of chapter 4, and the rest of chapter 5, and he says the word finally. So when I think I'm coming into an end of my message, and you think I'm near the end, and there's more words to come, I'm in good company. Finally, all of you live in harmony with one another. He used the word harmony. He could have used the word unity. It means the same. Let me use the word harmony for a bit from a musical perspective. When people sing in harmony, they are singing different notes and yet making something more beautiful. You could have a solo singer singing the melody on their own, but people will harmonize with them in 2-part, 3-part, 4-part harmony, and the whole thing sounds even richer. Unity and harmony is not uniformity and not everybody just being completely and utterly the same. It's having that diversity to create something more beautiful, but your purpose is you're in sync together. You're about the same thing. You are metaphorically on the same tune. You're singing the same song. Being in harmony is I've got to listen to others and play my part. I get to contribute to this. I have my role to play, but I only do so not this is what I want to do. What about those around me? Live in harmony with one another. Be sympathetic. Love as brothers and be compassionate and humble. Do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult, but with blessing, because to this you were called so that you may inherit a blessing. Can I just say that again? This is what Peter was saying. Don't repay evil for evil or insult with insult. So right now, with an election coming up, the TV commercials are insult for insult. That's it. That's it. Well, that's an insult, but no, they're both insulting. The culture is insult for insult, evil for evil. Don't get mad, get even. That's the culture. Somebody offends you, you offend them. They said this, I'm going to spread this. It's a culture. It's a flesh human response. It's right back then. Some of you need to have a good audit of your social media. And you just here we go. Let's just launch in there. Just like stop it. Like just stop, period. Don't say anything. It's clearly there. Why is he saying this? He wouldn't be saying it if he didn't see it happening. And they're under an oppressive reign and all of that. It's like, they're saying this. And we want to don't get mad, get even. There's a culture there. Insult for insult. I think I've got a gold medal for this sometimes. You know, she said that, I'm saying this. He said that, I'm saying this. And it's an easy response. It's actually a lazy response, but it's an easy response. And we sometimes just skip over it. Well, I'm here today to say, some of you, clean it up. Shut your mouth. I'm saying that. Seriously. Yeah, but that's not fair. Because I know, we'll get into that in a moment. We'll get into it. But with blessings, how you're supposed to respond. Because to this you were called, so you may inherit a blessing. Like, but that's not fair. They did that. This is how I should respond. And so Romans 5:8 goes on to say, even when we were still sinners, Christ died for us. So what if Jesus had taken the model, you offended, you insulted, you did these things. Oh, and by the way, this is how we'll respond. I love you so much, I'll die for you. Even when you were still sinners, Christ died for you. So what does it look like to love like Jesus? And that's why Peter, the same Peter, who was right there up close and personal with Jesus, when Jesus said, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. He saw Jesus respond to people. He saw how he reacted. He didn't just hear the words, he saw his ways and he saw how he loved. This is love your enemies. And Peter's repeating that words of Jesus to these people who it's real hard and real difficult and real struggle taking place. And he's saying, don't go the evil for evil, insult for insult. Go for bless them. Why should I bless them? They don't bless me. Because aren't you glad that my Jesus wasn't fair? So glad that God's not fair. Because if he was fair, we wouldn't even be here right now. God is so beautifully unfair in that we get what we don't deserve. Incredible, incredible. We carry on. Now, what Peter does now, he now quotes Psalm 34. Now, don't forget, in those days, no printed Bible, so there's a lot of memorization that's taken place, and there's different scrolls and different things to read this. So when anybody in that culture quotes an Old Testament passage, a psalm, a prophet in some way or somewhere from the Torah, they kind of knew the context. It was just in them. So if he quotes a few verses, on this occasion, verse 10 through 12 of Psalm 34, they kind of know what 1 through 9 is, and 13 through the rest. They kind of know it. And so it's that element to go like the highlight reel. Here you go, here's the highlight, but you know the context. I'm going to quote Psalm 34 at the end with communion today, the other verses. But he goes there and he says, guys, remember this? Blessing, not insult for insult. He says, in Psalm 34, whoever would love life and see good days must keep his tongue from evil and his lips from deceitful speech. Do we pause and think about that? Are we thinking about how we speak and what we're saying? Those who are leaders and follow, are we looking at, hey, whoa, like, it matters. And then he goes on to say, he must turn from evil and do good. He must seek peace and pursue it. For the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous and his ears are attentive to their prayer. But the face of the Lord is against those who do evil. Verse 13, who is going to harm you if you are eager to do good? But even if you should suffer for what is right, you're blessed. Do not fear what they fear. Do not be frightened. This is lordship. Sometimes your lordship is tested even if things don't go the way you want them to go. Even if this doesn't result in earthly gain. Even if. That's where lordship, he is Lord, lordship. So lordship, let me talk about lordship briefly. In quite simple terms, lordship is this. Who am I bowing to? Break it down even more. Who is it I live for? Who is it I am honoring? Who is it I am serving? Who is it I am worshiping? Who is it I am leading others towards? Who is it who I belong to? And who do others say that I belong to? Lordship. It's lordship. He is king. He is lordship. The word Lord would be Adonai, and there's a whole element, another name for God, but in your heart set apart Christ as Lord now. In that text in verse 14 it says, but even if you should suffer, I was preparing and I went, oh, I remember some other guys who once said, but even if this doesn't go to plan, but even if. So let me just briefly take you there. It's not on screen. Some of you may be familiar with this dude, Daniel. Back in the Old Testament, a prophet, he was serving under a king called Nebuchadnezzar, serious big ego. and his buddies, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, also served in the palace of Nebuchadnezzar. That was their job. That was their livelihood. That was their means for food and shelter and being. They were dependent on earth, on Nebuchadnezzar. Their identity in terms of how they functioned was there, but they were followers of the one true God. And let me just give you a bit of text, because Nebuchadnezzar's ego starts to explode and he starts to demand lordship. But these guys had already nailed their lordship to the one true king. And he says this in Daniel 3, and it's familiar with some of you, but I want to push in. And now verse 15, this is Nebuchadnezzar talking. Now when you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipes, and all kinds of music, if you are ready to fall down and worship the image I made, very good. But if you do not worship it, you will be thrown immediately into a blazing furnace. Then what God will be able to rescue you from my hand? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to the king, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God who we serve is able to save us from it, and he will rescue us from your hand, O king. But even if he does not, we want you to know, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up." They had nailed the lordship, even if. Can we be honest? Some of us follow Jesus, and when things don't go the way we want, we don't like him as Lord. But even if, we will not. Even if that costs us the blazing furnace, and even if we don't survive the blazing furnace, we're still not doing it. We believe that the Lord will rescue us from it. Can I just go into this a little bit? We don't see this, but I think I would have rationalized this situation. Here's how we rationalize sin sometimes. Here's the situation placed before them. It's their job, it's their means of income, and what good am I to God if I'm dead? Don't believe the Lord would want me to die right now, so I should avoid the furnace. And I tell you what, here's how I rationalize it. So I'll compromise a bit. So Lord, the scriptures actually do say, Lord, that man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. I may be bowing physically now, but I'm not bowing in my heart. I'm not selling my soul to this image of gold. My soul belongs to you, God. But I'm going to do this because I believe you may want me alive. The furnace, it's not a good idea. And if I do this, then I keep my job. And if I keep my job, then I could have some influence in this palace. And I'm sure you want that, God. I'm sure you need me right now. That we compromise and we rationalize sin in those situations. And in fact, let's be honest here. If Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had compromised their lordship and bowed to Nebuchadnezzar, they would have been spared from the flames. They would have been spared from the furnace. They would have been. I mean, they would have been rescued from that situation. But by who? They'd have been rescued from the blazing furnace by Nebuchadnezzar, not rescued through the flaming furnace by the king. There's a difference. We're prepared to go through things because our lordship has been settled. When we compromise our lordship, when we rationalize that, I believe we hinder fresh revelation. I believe the lordship of those three guys was the trigger for a miracle. I believe the lordship of those guys created an opportunity for our God to show up and show off. I believe the lordship of those guys set an example of lordship and integrity that is so needed. Because it wasn't just a story of, we believe our God will rescue us, and he did. It was, even if he doesn't. I think that's the most powerful line. And Peter repeats it to these guys and says, and even if even if we still suffer, even if he is still king, and lordship and integrity matter significantly. At 10:40 on Thursday in the morning, I was writing my notes, preparing for today's message. At 10:40, I wrote this word down, this line. To bow or not to bow? That is the question. I wrote that down at 10:40. How do I know it was 10:40? Because as soon as I finished that, a text message came up from my wife. The Queen has died. I'd just written down to bow or not to bow. The Queen has died. Spun me out. Caught me off guard. My emotion was caught off guard by the whole thing. I suddenly started to process things and was like, oh my word. And for 90 minutes or so, not another note went on my page. It was just this moment, and I started to navigate my emotion, my memories, seeing the Queen when I was 7, all these different things were coming through and recalling her. And I've been talking about people who've been declaring Jesus, the King, his Lord. What does it mean to live with somebody as Lord? What does that lordship look like? And Peter's saying it looks like gentleness and respect and humility. It looks like being constant and true. It looks like not insult for insult, not evil for evil. It looks like this unwavering, calm, peace nature that is powerful and majestic. You see, my Queen was queen for 70 years. You've no concept of a leadership like that. None of us have. 70 years, every day, 24/7. It wasn't a job, it was an identity. It was a calling thrust upon a young girl who was never in the lineage meant to become on the throne. It was only because her uncle wanted to live with a woman that he abdicated the throne, that her dad became king, who was never prepared to become King George VI. If you want British history, have a chat. But that was never to happen, and he died relatively young, and in her early 20s, Queen, the Princess Elizabeth, is thrust upon her a role that when she was a little girl was not meant to be. She'd no concept of it, and she received it and embraced it. And I'll say this: how is it possible for a woman to go through so many decades and be constant and calm and pure and no insult for insult and navigate multiple different world events and world leaders? She was queen. There have been 14 presidents in her reign, 15 prime ministers in her reign, all kinds of different turmoil in a nation, and she stayed constant and she stayed through. What does it look like for a leader to stay faithfully married all the days of her life? What does it look like for a leader to not only say that what she believes, but to live it out in all truth? This is how that's possible, because she had a king. You need to know about Elizabeth that some of you don't always know. She had a king. She was a powerful follower of Jesus. The media doesn't want to portray that because it's not politically correct to do so. Every single Christmas day in England. Oh, and by the way, she was queen, not Queen of England. She was queen to 2 billion people on the earth. 14 nations have her as queen. 40 plus nations have her as head of state. A third of the world's population would have had her as a leader and a queen in some way for 70 years. Imagine waking up with that responsibility. Y'all are too much for me. Did I say y'all? Anyway, moving on. It happens a lot now. I rebuke that. Anyway, moving on. This is what she does. And let me just say this. Every Christmas day at 3 p.m, she would give a broadcast out to her people, to her kingdom. Christmas day, she would do it. And you can go back and listen to them. And every single Christmas day in her reign, without fail, she declared her Savior, and she declared the significance of Christmas, and she declared her Jesus. Every single one. Put it on the screen. This was the last time she gave one, in Christmas of 2021. And she said these words, declared out of her own mouth, these words: Jesus, whose teachings have been handed down from generation to generation, have been the bedrock of my faith. Words of Jesus. Hello? Words of Jesus. Learn the words of Jesus. His birth marked a new beginning, ways of Jesus. As the carol says, the hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. That's just the last one. You can go through previous years and it's unmistakable. She declared Jesus. She was great friends with Billy Graham. 11 times he visited her. The whole story, incredible woman of faith. How is it possible to live like that? It's because she was called to such a royal position for such a time as this. That was a Queen Esther and Queen Elizabeth. In the midst of all of that, lived in such a way. And then this slammed me so hard on Thursday. I thought for all of her life, she had people bow to her. Every time they'd walk in a room, even her own kids would bow to her and curtsy before her. She had crowns like we don't have crowns. It is even known that Queen Elizabeth a few years declared she hoped Jesus would return in her lifetime so she could lay her crowns at his feet. And on Thursday, what must it have been like for a young Queen Elizabeth in a new heavenly body to go before her king and for the first time in her life not have people bow to her, but for her to bow before her king. And for her to hear, I believe these words, "Oh, my daughter, I have longed for this day. Well done. Well done." Every day for 70 years. She still went to work on Tuesday, guys, at 96 years old. Get up and get a job, some of you. At 96, she still did her calling. What a moment of meeting her king. The world needs people who love like Jesus and live like Jesus. Dang it, this is not good. Verse 15, here we go. But in your heart set apart Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. Elizabeth did it every year. Always give a reason. Now that line has been taken as this proves we need to have good apologetics. It doesn't disprove that. Agreed. We should have a reason for the hope we profess. But if we leave it there and don't continue the text, that's why people get, I know all this stuff. I can have an argument with somebody about faith and belief, and I can make sure I win the argument. Yeah, and you lose the person. Because it goes on to say, always have an answer prepared, but do this with gentleness and respect. The world doesn't need loud, shouting, angry leaders. Angry leaders. Confident, but their confidence is to be found not in themselves, but in the role and the calling that they have. Gentleness and respect. Yeah, but that doesn't work. No, it's not working. That's not working, that system. Keeping a clear conscience so that those who speak maliciously against your good behavior in Christ may be ashamed of their slander. It is better, if it is God's will, to suffer for doing good than for doing evil. Lordship. Lordship is, who am I bowing to? But it is also, who am I going to offend? Who am I going to offend? It's a very important question. One you should always ask yourself. Who am I going to offend? Because you're going to offend. Who am I going to offend? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were going to offend Nebuchadnezzar, and they were cool with that. Let me say this to you. If I have a fear of what other people may think, a fear of man, I offend God. If I have, it's simple. If I want to honor God, I'm going to offend man. Who am I going to offend? Until recent times, A lot of my leadership time here was defensive and reactionary because at the end of the day, I was more fearful of what other people might think than I was about my Jesus. Even though he said, pursue this. When you pursue it and things come in and take away and disagree and all of that, you just go, oh, maybe. I did have a posture, I believe, of wanting to help the people, but I did so at compromising my lordship. Not anymore. In a really clear way, I have no apology whatsoever for saying that the most important people are those not here yet. And you have a role in seeing that come to pass. Because my king came to seek and to save that which was lost. He didn't came to coddle the believers. He came for the sick, not the healthy. And we're to love like Jesus. Oh, and by doing so, when we bless, we are blessed beyond measure. We are blessed beyond measure. And so in moving forward with this, who are we going to offend? I read a proverb this week that messed my soul, and I still don't like it. I don't like it. I tried to get the original context to believe it had been translated wrong in English. Because I was like, don't like it. I seriously, I'd never read it before. I had, but I hadn't. I didn't like it. And I'm in the midst of this context of preparing this message. Put it on the screen. Proverbs 19:11. It is to one's glory to overlook an offense. I don't want to overlook it. They offended me. They need to know they offended me and put them right. I need to, no. That just sounds like they get away with it. They get away with it. That's not fair. What if Jesus has said that's not fair? That's not right. And I'm wrestling with it. But then I looked at it and went, it's to my benefit. Dad, stop trying to put them right and bring justice to their bad attitude and their slanderous spirit and their mean, self-centered heart. Stop pointing that out. It's to your benefit. Let it go, boy. Lighten up. Let it go. Mean-spiritedness, they're not pretty people. Let it go. It's to your benefit, even to your glory, that you overlook an offense. Because that's what Jesus did. And I'm like, no, he didn't. And you read the Gospels and you go, oh, the only ones he really corrected was the ones who thought they were following God. I'm like, I don't like that. And I'm leaning into it a little bit, but it's a lordship question. If he said it, stop dwelling on it, Des. Stop dwelling on all that stuff that people do and saying, move on. Like, move on. And I'm human, so I still think some people need putting straight, but that's by the by. I'm dealing with it. Here's what came to me. If I take offense, I become defensive. And if I become defensive, I stop playing offense, and that's what the enemy wants me to do. Let me say it again. If I take offense, I become defensive, and therefore in becoming defensive, I stop focusing on what the Lord's called me to in playing offense, and that's what the enemy wants me to do. He doesn't want us taking ground. The enemy doesn't want us being part of the kingdom of heaven forcefully advancing. The enemy doesn't want us to see light pierce the darkness. So he wants us focused on defending and putting out fires over here and playing defense. And by playing defense, I can't play offense. And that's what he wants to do. Therefore, it is to your benefit, to your glory, to let it go. Who are you bowing to? What are you bowing to? Whose influences, whose voices? This is a tough one. I'll be careful. Sometimes people have got really good intentions for your life. They think this is a good idea, this is best, but who are you bowing to? Oh, this makes practically good sense. I want you to be all this. And sometimes those safety decisions are wise, but if the Lord says something different, they're not wise, they're disobedient. And they could be coming from a good heart. Parents, we have to be careful with this one. We have to be careful because we sometimes want to protect and do what's best for our kids. But we've got to ask the question, but what is the Lord asking? What is he saying here? And are we prepared to... I said, if it was down to our parents, we wouldn't be in the US right now. But fortunately, our parents follow Jesus and know who is Lord. Practical decisions. I want you to just sit in that and go, who are you bowing to? Or what are you bowing to? Verse 18. For Christ died for sins once for all. The righteous for the unrighteous. Why? To bring you to God. Today, the reason you're in here, the reason we'll celebrate communion in a minute is to remind you Christ died for sins once for all. Why? To bring you to God. Do you know today in this space, this is the King's house, by the way. The King's house. This is his residency and he wants to bring you to himself. He did this to bring you to God. To bring you to God. Not clean your act up and go to him. No, I'll pay. Though your sin be as scarlet, it'll be like white as snow. As far as the east is from the west, so far have your sins been removed. And so when it comes to defending yourself, I need to remind you of this. Stop playing defense and go offense. Jesus never defended himself. He never defended himself when Pilate asked him. He never defended himself against Pilate. He never defended himself when the Romans were whipping him. He never defended himself when they were mocking him and put a crown of thorns on his head. He never defended himself when they were mocking him when he was even on the cross and calling him names. He never defended himself when the not so good thief was kind of being very, very self-centered. He never defended himself when they were absolutely brutally torturing him. In fact, rather than defend himself, he interceded for the executioners. And he said, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. He never defended, he blessed. That's my King. Never insult for insult, never evil for evil. He interceded and did the supreme blessing. He didn't defend himself. It's time to play offense, church. To learn from Jesus, to live his ways and to love like him. There is a better way. To learn, live and love. So who are you bowing to? What are you bowing to in every sphere of life? Every sphere of your life. I'm going to invite the band out to join me, and this is what we're going to do in terms of communion today. I'm going to declare in a moment Psalm 34, I mentioned before, some of the other verses from Psalm 34. As a declaration of my Lord, this is how I want to respond from his words. I'll make that declaration in a moment. Secondly, if you've got your elements, you can just have them in your hand. You don't have to get them necessarily ready right now. But I want to give you some options here of how we move forward with this today. Those who were at the prayer night a couple of weeks ago, it was probably one of the most significant gatherings we've ever had in our time here. And first Monday in October, November, and December, we do the same. We pray you don't want to miss it. But I wanted to really help you with this. The scriptures talk about in communion in 1 Corinthians 11 that we should examine ourselves. Take a moment. Just take a moment and reflect on where are we at. And sometimes that will reveal itself in, Jesus, I've not made you Lord in everything. Forgive me. There's a lordship question. My behaviors, my responses. So here's what you can get to choose to do today. During this song we're going to sing in Preparing Our Hearts, if you so wish, you may need to bow. You may need to kneel in full surrender to the King. You may want to do it. I would encourage you to, because there's no space where you are, to find a space to do that. Down front is open. We have kneel pads just to protect your knees because we care for your joints. You can come down here and you could do that. We have a cross set up over there. Some of you may want to just kneel at the foot of the cross and just symbolically bring a heart and go, Lord, would you be Lord of this in my life? Maybe it's Lord of everything, but I think some of you need to be specific. Lord, this relationship, this career, this job, this person who is lost in my family, this prodigal son or daughter who's not following Jesus immensely. This, you may need to just, Lord, this is what I want to. So come and take a kneel moment. You can bring your elements with you. Come do that. Some of you, it's just stay seated and look at the lyric and hear the words, because we're going to be singing Forever Yahweh. It was the names of God. And it gets to the chorus and it says, worthy you were, worthy you are, worthy you will be. That will be is a faith statement. Lord, I believe you will be made and seen worthy in such a person's life. Maybe in your life, really declare it. Make a declaration in the atmosphere over those things. So you can come out, you can kneel, you can sit where you are. And for some of you, you're like, don't you stop me, Des. I'm standing and I'm ripping my lungs out in praise. I'm going to bring my absolute everything, which I believe is the heartbeat of this psalm. But I want you to have a moment, because Jesus did that to bring you to God. So your encounter right now is with the King, the Holy Spirit here with us. You get to have an audience with the King in whatever posture you need to do that. So let me declare some of the words from Psalm 34 that Peter didn't write to those believers back then, but they knew them. I will extol the Lord at all times. His praise will always be on my lips. My soul will boast in the Lord. Let the afflicted hear and rejoice. Do you hear that? The reason I praise is so that those who don't have praise in their mouth can hear my praise and as a result rejoice. It's not just about me and my Jesus. It's about we and our Jesus. There is something powerful about our praise. Let the afflicted hear and rejoice. If one of you here today feels afflicted in a certain area, I pray you hear my praise. Because the scripture says, may the afflicted hear and in so doing rejoice. Glorify the Lord with me. Let us exalt his name together. I saw the Lord and he answered me. He delivered me from all my fears. The righteous cry out, and the Lord hears them. He delivers them from all their troubles. And this verse, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. You're here, aren't you? You're in that somewhere. Now respond. So let's declare this song. Come, kneel. Sit, stand, draw near to God, receive him, declare him as Lord. He is Lord. Everything flows to him and from him in every way. And hear the Lord say, okay, this is now, learn from me, live with me, and love like me.